begin.
Oh, is that yellow bag okay where it is? Okay. Because he moved it.
Does Jeff have surprises?
Okay.
I'm starting the timer.
Okay. So
That yellow bag is right where it needs to be.
It's
Don't
exactly-
you worry
That
about
makes me nervous.
unfortunately, it's been
Well,
moved a couple
maybe
times.
it should.
Well, hey, Jeff.
Hey, Aaron, what's going on, man?
How's it going, man?
That's going pretty good.
We're back in studio.
That's right.
I'll tell you what, today's a special day, isn't it?
It is extremely special.
I'm sure you know why when you look at the calendar.
Ooh, the calendar.
Yeah, it's not my birthday. Why it's special today is we have a special guest in the studio.
Well, that's what I thought you meant, and you're right. And you have reason to be nervous now.
Oh, my palms are sweaty and my
Knees bent.
Yeah. I don't know what song that's from.
Lose yourself.
We have Mrs. Gustin, Danielle Gustin, Chief Nursing Officer, Village Caregiving, in the room.
Oh,
Here she is.
What
So-
a title.
You better watch your step now.
Hi, it's odd that we have the same last name.
I've never met you.
Interesting.
Well, I've got some questions about that. We'll get to those. Now, before we went live here, I had told Aaron I hadn't done any preparation for this episode.
Which is very
Sorry.
unlike you.
I
That's
just
very unlike
Time
you.
got away from me. Well, guess what?
Oh, no.
I lied.
Oh, he's so sneaky.
Oh, he's got a postcard of questions.
You can't see these questions yet.
It's already snapped
See
in my
how it's kind of
mind.
blue on the outside, like David Letterman
Yeah,
show?
here I thought,
Uh-huh.
I thought that show was over, but
This
he's
is
back.
how we do it in the biz.
this one is probably not
Can I
gonna
just
go
get
out.
up and walk away now? Someone else take my seat.
I don't want to steal your thunder. You go on ahead.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. There's no way this goes well today. Not because of you, mainly because of you. So we do have a special guest today, who sometimes I wonder, Danielle, do you watch and listen to the podcast because you just fell madly in love with me 15 years ago? Is it because Jeff put it in your contract that you have to watch all the episodes? Or are you here mainly for Jeff? These are questions that I want answered before we get off the podcast today. But first, welcome to the Secret VCG Experience. I'll do a quick introduction. Your name is Danielle Gustin. As Jeff alluded to, your official position at Village Caregiving is Chief Nursing Officer. Tell us a little bit about what you do at Village Caregiving, how long you've been there, how you came to Village Caregiving. What's your story?
All right. Well, I started with Village Caregiving January of 21, I believe, right in the middle of COVID. I think that was correct. Yeah. I was working dialysis before then, so I remember being in the heat of COVID in the dialysis center. So January 21, I started out as the Ashland, Kentucky nurse, then ended up being the nurse for all Kentucky locations because we went from Ashland and Pikeville to Lexington and Louisville and Bowling Green. So quickly grew to kind of helping them with their compliance and being over the PRN nurses. After about 7 months in that role, the company was growing, realized compliance was needing to be checked more often with employees, making sure everything was being done correctly in each state. So Jeff and Matt reached out to me about possibly doing that, looking at every employee. So I started doing that. By September of that year, we went from, I had the numbers before, like 9 locations to like over 20 by January 2022. I could be wrong. Jeff, I'm sure, knows the numbers.
Well, things happen fast around
It
here.
happened very quickly. So
The growth happens fast, and your advancement too. I mean, how many different jobs have you had there? Four jobs.
I started out as the Kentucky nurse to the compliance person to now the chief nursing officer. So 3 roles in a year and a half. And now I've been here, into my 3rd year now.
Going on, yeah. So
Yeah.
you work in the compliance department with.
I have.
Introduce your team.
All right. So like the whole team, there's
Yeah, I
me,
think
Matt,
everyone.
and Andy. And then that works with me is Anna Lahan. She does all the client care sheets, stuff like that. And then after Anna is Chastity and Alicia. They do all the employee compliance. So they are the ones that really go through everyone's files. And then I just quickly go through everything after that to make sure nothing was missed. Sometimes I even miss it because there are a lot of employees, but I audit them after they audit stuff.
And we lump Zach Wellman in there.
And Zach Wellman. I
HR's a
did
little bit
forget
different.
HR. Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit different.
There is Zach and Chandler on the HR side.
You can't forget Chan Man.
You can. Oh, Chan,
I've
man.
tried.
Come on. Okay.
Yeah, I tried.
Well, so that's your journey since coming to
Yeah.
Village Caregiving in 2021. Let's go back before that.
Oh, no.
Give us a little bit of your career journey.
Okay.
What's your career path been like?
Well, after high school, went into college, not really knowing what I wanted to do. Decided after speaking with my grandfather that nursing was probably the right choice for me. So went into nursing, started off as a nursing assistant. Or is he marking off questions right now? Started off as a nursing assistant my first year of college. Ended up being a nursing assistant, LPN, then went into RN school and got my bachelor's. During all that time, I worked at Cabell for 10 years as a nurse. Different floors there. Then did some dialysis nursing. Then came to Village Caregiving, and I don't plan on leaving. So you guys are stuck with me unless you just push me away.
That's a lot of years of experience
It
there. So
is.
you've been a nurse a lot longer than you have, huh?
Oh, okay.
Yes, I have been. I was a nurse, and then he decided maybe a year and a half after nursing that might be for him as well. So he went into the whole nursing assistant and then nursing program.
I didn't know there were guy nurses, in my defense. I'd never met one.
Are you being serious?
Yeah, I didn't know. I was healthy growing up, so I didn't go to the hospital. And when she became pregnant with our son, Pearson, I went to the hospital, and there was all these dudes walking around. And, well, first I had a lot of questions, as you can imagine. But then after I calmed down,
It was
I
mainly
like,
because there was a lot of guys in the room. We didn't know who the dad was. It was really uncomfortable.
Yeah. we
Let
can
me
edit
ask
that.
you seriously now.
yeah.
You've had a ton of jobs. That's why I say.
Hold on a minute. I'm not like a serial job hunter.
No. You haven't had a ton. A lot when you were younger, but you
Has really though.
So Danielle,
Almost
your
had a
story is
almost worked at Marathon Plant. Ran a trucking company, basically. Almost became a state police officer. I know this
He
guy's
almost
pursued lots of
joined the
different
military.
military,
Yeah.
right? So I'm getting somewhere with this, though. Seriously, Aaron is somebody that really follows whatever his passion in life may be. It's one thing I kind of worry about. At the moment that this man decides his passion lies somewhere else,
He's gone.
it's not about money. It's not about security. He truly follows his heart in that way. So my question is, how much of Danielle being a nurse do you think contributed to you becoming a nurse as well?
okay. I wasn't expecting questions, so I guess long answer, very short, is that I was always looking for a purpose in life, and nursing oddly aligned with that. Not in the way that I ever wanted to be in the ER bandaging up gunshot wounds or any of that stuff. I just wanted to be in a capacity that served people. And I never really understood if that was necessarily like a call to ministry, if you're spiritual, if that was through volunteerism or what that was. But professionally, nursing allowed me to fill that cup in my life that wasn't currently being filled in other roles. So as you talk about things that it sounded like I started a lot of projects I didn't finish.
No.
There were reasons why I didn't become a state trooper. There was a reason why I didn't join the military. And those things just oddly didn't work out. And people, you can have your reasons behind that.
So when you watched Danielle and her role and heard about her days and everything, is it something that you were kind of envious of? Like, man, I wish.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell through her stories when she would come home from work and through school and stuff. I knew that there were things that she was doing that sounded like what was missing in my professional life.
Did you know that? Y'all talk about it a lot back then?
No, not a whole lot.
We were trying to pay our electric bill back then. I mean, we were. For the young listeners, we were broke AF in the day. So, like satellite antenna, not even a satellite, just an antenna laying on top of our mobile home was.
Oh,
I
we
didn't have
did. I forgot you bought one from Walmart so we could try and have some. We did
Really?
look like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not like outhouse poor, but we did have we had our own
we had our own
toilets,
water.
but we had that.
So when we got together, let's just say this out loud. Some people know this. We got together fairly young by most people's standards. I was 21 when we got married. You were 19, is that right? Mm-hmm. So we were very young when we got married. It'd be 15 years next month. Hold
Congrats.
for applause.
I'm trying to make sure he's right. I can't do
It
math
is-
that quick.
No, it is right.
Like,
It
hold
is
on.
right. But I moved out of my parents' house. I've never stayed by myself. I've never lived independently in my life. So I moved out of my parents' house to Danielle and I's first place. So I wasn't certain.
He still hasn't lived independently.
I know.
You
That's
got
what
you
I'm
to
Neither
take
have
care.
I. Yeah,
That's
neither
why
of
when-
us have.
When if she takes the kids out of town for a couple of days, I mean, it's as close to ever living alone as I'll be.
You just
until she
pace the
leaves.
house and don't know what to do
Yeah,
with yourself.
I'm like-
He
Yeah.
lives on our dog Callie.
She's a
Probably.
sweet hound.
Yeah.
But no, it's
He's like Sarah in that aspect.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it was interesting, but I wasn't convinced that we could afford to eat after we got married. So I was very nervous about
Well, man,
finances.
you've come a long way. You think that put some toughness, work ethic into you? I mean, things obviously weren't just handed to you. Life wasn't that easy when you're trying to put the satellite out there on the mobile home, sounds like. Right?
No, it's true. Yeah. No, like you said, we legit were minimum wage at the time. Minimum wage was like $6 an hour. I know that's what I was making when we got married. And
Do you ever think back to those
That's-
times, though, and allow that to sort of, do you think that it relates to what you're doing now, makes you better, stronger,
Oh,
more
yeah.
appreciative, whatever the thing is? I mean, do you find yourself thinking back on those times very often?
oh yeah, like even this weekend, like we took a long weekend and we took our kids to a preseason football game and then try to hang out at Cedar Point before the storm came in. And that's what we'll sit and think, like 15 years ago, we could have never just packed up and decided, you know what, let's just go to a football game and go to an amusement park for the weekend. Like that would have never crossed our mind because we know that it would have never happened.
Yeah.
So it is cool to look back and see. It's crazy how far we've came.
Okay, let me ask you a tough question. So that's looking backward, now forward.
Okay.
Okay. What do you want out of your career? I mean, what would you like to accomplish in that? Tough question. I'm putting you on the spot
It
here.
is a tough question.
I am a nervous. I'm sweating. I'm chugging water.
Let me frame it this way. Where do you sort of envision your role going within the company or your career path? I mean, do you spend much time thinking about that, or
I do.
what you would like to accomplish in the future?
Yeah, specifically, think more about it with this company. I've never looked past being with Village Caregiving after the last like year and a half. It's nothing else comes to mind that I would like to do. So really my role, pretty much like we talked about in our meetings recently, is just watching the training grow and actually become something more realistic in the company. Because like you said in podcasts before, we have states that aren't licensed, so we could just go work there, but we still try to do the right thing. We get background checks. But really, my goal is to just make our training spot on. Like in those states that aren't required training, actually having a nurse like we talked about and training caregivers so that those caregivers are coming in doing exactly what they need to make sure that these clients can live their best years that they have left. But it's really just growing in that role, just becoming stronger as a leader and having people just kind of follow and want to have the same dreams as I do when it comes to the nursing and village caregiving.
Yeah, that's something you've done a great job with, and really, you can tell it's probably the most important thing to me, and what's on my mind with the company lately is, like you say, this state doesn't have a licensure process, and there really aren't many standards at all.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we do all of the best training anyway, because that's just something that should happen, you know? So I'm really about going all above and beyond, and I'm glad that you've embraced that too, because it does slow things down and it does make things harder and make things harder for the directors too, but it's just worth doing. So thanks for buying into that.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
and carrying it out. That's really nice. Can I keep going?
Yeah, no, don't let me slow
This
down.
I'm
is
on
weird.
fire
Jeff,
now.
Jeff
Yeah.
is taking lead. This is
Well,
odd.
let me ask you one thing. This is a question for you both. We'll get you back on camera, buddy.
Yeah.
Would you just spill coffee on
No,
yourself?
I'm just sweating.
His
nervous
palms are
sweat.
sweating like how you can just look at your
I
hand and it
can't.
sweats. I think his is doing that right now.
This is either going to strengthen our marriage or push us right into
We've
divorce.
made it
Let's
this
continue
long,
on.
so we're good.
I think it's going to strengthen it to no end. Whenever you go home, how do you guys are really good about sort of having, it seems to me, a firewall between your work life, your personal life. Is that something you're aware of that you do intentionally, that you don't? How much do you talk about work when you go home?
Yeah.
And are there sort of rules you've set up for this is to be discussed or this is not to be discussed or anything like that?
Well,
Take us
so-
behind the curtain here.
Okay, well, I'll talk a little bit on this, and Aaron can add to it. So when I started out with just as like the Ashland or the Kentucky nurse, it was Aaron and I didn't really interact as much in work because I had Josh Yates as the director I worked with and the other director. So I just talked to them. And then once this role came up and you talked to me about it, Aaron and I discussed, like, we're going to see each other a lot. Like, we're going to be in the same building at work,
Yep.
at home. Like, these are what, like, we can't bring work home. So since the beginning, since you've offered me that role to go to corporate, we kind of just made it a point to try not to talk about work. To say that we don't at all would be a lie, because I'm really bad. Like if I have something I have questions about, I'll ask Aaron, and he's like, hey, we're not at work. Like he's good at keeping us on that path, because I would talk about it probably more than I should. But as you can imagine, Aaron is good at like, I don't think it's, and he'll look, I don't think it's time for, are we at work right now? Like you can picture it.
So, yeah, I remember we were driving to vacation. I was working at the home office and the centralized nursing role. Danielle was still working dialysis, and the phone rang, and we were looking for a nurse in Kentucky. And it was you and Ben were together. I don't know if you remember this call or not, but we were driving to vacation. And so Danielle's in the passenger seat. I'm in the driver's seat driving. The phone rings. It's like, I got to answer. I'm like, hello. And Ben was like, hey, we're like, just so I understand this right, we're looking for a full-time nurse in Kentucky, right? And I'm like, yeah. And your wife, who lives near Kentucky and works in Ashland, is a nurse, right? I'm like, yeah. Is there a reason why we're not talking to her about it? And I remember like switching ears to move the phone to the other side. And I'm like, oh no, yeah. And I'm trying to like do the math on this. Like, we're going to be married and work together at the same place. That is a lot of time together. I mean, we might as well just load up in an RV and travel the world.
Question for you both.
Yeah.
Working with my spouse at work is blank. What emotion fills that blank when you thought about it right then?
Right then. Oh, I was anxious.
Right then I was a little nervous, because I remember he told me, it was probably 3 days later, we were back from the beach, our kids were relaxing, and we were just hanging out on the couch. He said, so remember when Ben called me the other day? And I was like, yeah. So then we both were just nervous, like what does this look like? Because we both worked at Cabell for a while, but we were on completely different floors. So in that instance, I mean, it's like you're at a different building. You never see each other unless we randomly went to lunch together.
Yeah, so there was some complications with that, because I was in a nursing role and she was coming to a nursing role. So our worlds did overlap quite a bit for that period of time. That was pretty short-lived. Now it's really odd, because we do work at the same place. Our offices at times have been very close to each other. We interact with a lot of the same people, but generally not about the same things. So there are a lot of times where we can go home and discuss our day like spouses do. And it's still a pretty different experience. A lot of the same characters, right? But what she interacts with you about during the day isn't necessarily what you and I interact about. Mm-hmm. What becomes a challenge is when she makes a decision or has an opinion of something that is very different than the way that I would solve the problem. And
then what happens?
You. Like, what does Jeff think?
Yeah, we get our WWJD bracelet out, and we're like, what would Jeff do?
Yeah, we wear it every night, WWJD.
And we even have the kids asking. No, I've gotten really good, I think, about intentionally withholding opinion. And because, again, there's multiple ways to solve a problem, right? And so I try really hard to intentionally not go down that path of just freely giving my opinion. Just because I wouldn't do that with Andy. I wouldn't do that with Zach. I don't do that with you. It's not fair to do that to Danielle.
So even though I'll beg for it sometimes. Like, seriously though, like your answer will be like Jeff's. What do you think? He's like, no.
Yeah, it's just, I don't think it's a service to anyone by doing that.
So you were here at the company first, we've established, right? Mm-hmm. So what was it? This kind of may go to culture or whatever you want to take it, but what was the thing that made you think it was a good idea to recruit your wife to the same company? I mean, this is the person that you love more than anybody in the world. It's half your household income.
Yeah.
Could it be viewed as kind of risky here? Like, what was the thing that made you choose that path and make that decision?
It was a lot of conversations. I do remember that.
Yeah. The challenge was that she really liked her job that she was at. That was the weird part. But it was, dialysis work is really hard work. It was physically hard. There's a lot of exposure to bloodborne illness. And it's just long hours. It was really early in the morning to really late in the evening. And this was a much different opportunity. So I was in the business of recruiting nurses for the company at the time. And I just knew that this would add an incredible amount of work-life balance to our family. So it was risky financially. I've already told you I was scared we couldn't eat when we got married. So to put every egg in the same basket was a concern, but it was a mitigated risk. I mean,
is that how you remember it?
Yeah, like because I remember not really knowing much about Village Caregiving. I knew what Aaron had told me, but I still didn't know a whole lot about what you all did. And I don't know, just once we discussed it more, and I don't remember if I talked to you, it was someone I'd spoke to whenever I first came on. It was just like, you guys won me over. And then since then I've seen like the culture, just everything about Village Caregiving is just amazing. You can't even explain it.
Cool. Thanks. Do us all a favor. So we've got the crew here. We all want to be a little fly on the wall and go back in time to the first date between Danielle and Aaron. Go back in your minds here.
Well, we had friends.
Tell us how
trying
that went, where you were at, how did it go? Were you sure there would be a second date?
So
I'm trying to think. I know the place that we first went out to eat is no longer open. You'll remember where it is. I remember we hung out after church on a Wednesday night and watched American Idol. And it was on my 18th birthday. I remember hanging out with him then and thinking, I like him. And then
that's exactly how I remember.
he does not. He probably doesn't even remember us hanging out.
We went to Boston Beanery to eat.
That's where our first date was. He asked me out a week or so later.
Yeah.
How did you ask her out?
Well, so it was kind of, as she
I
was
don't even
alluding to,
remember.
so our families have known each other since before we were born. My grandfather and her grandmother went to high
they
school
were
together. They
best
grew up
friends.
together. And so our families have known each other our whole lives. We are not related. Just as a disclaimer.
That's good.
But no, we were already we were going to the same church, and we had a lot of mutual friends at the church. And I was, it was at the time we didn't know each other. Danielle was super quiet, especially early on in our marriage. Not that you're not now. She just didn't talk a ton, right? But we did have, I think, a mutual interest in each other. So we would go. It was kind of a thing. As you was talking about watching Big Brother all the time. At the time, American Idol was huge, and we would get together with a group of people and we would watch American Idol. That's kind of a watch
huge.
party. Yeah,
Couldn't be more huge back then.
It was. Yeah,
so
I was a huge fan of American Idol.
Me and one of my buddies that was at the watch party thing. I wouldn't call it a party because it was not a party.
It was a watch.
Yeah, we were just watching a TV show.
Yeah.
So we went and got a birthday cake for Danielle because it was her birthday. And
did you know you liked her?
well, I'll be honest with you. I was attracted to her, but I don't necessarily know that it was on my radar at that point. Like this could be someone that I like go out with or whatever. It still felt a little early, but my buddy was early to it and was like, "Hey, I think she might be into you or whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, And I had so much game at the time, just
No,
it was bad.
So during this first date, though, are there sparks flying here? Did you know? Was it a we know you know?
I don't think that. I think we knew we would hang out again, but I don't think it was this is it. This is the one.
I will say this is.
If
here's
Aaron
the scoop
says
you're
he
looking for,
felt
all right?
that, I won't believe it.
Here's the scoop you're looking for.
Okay.
All right. Here's
God.
where things get spicy.
Let's get that scoop.
Yeah.
I'm nervous.
So we date for a while, and I always kind of thought I would get married younger. Like I wasn't one of these people that was like adverse to marriage. So it was not a thing I was fearful of. It's just the progression of my life.
And I was going to move away from this area
Yeah.
and not come back.
Yeah.
Really?
So
I was not. As soon as I graduated high school, my goal was to move away.
Yeah. She had actually,
Aaron
I
kept
still
me
feel
here.
bad about this to this day, but she was going to a college away from here. And I was happy for her. I mean, it was great. And we were, at this point, a couple months into our relationship, it wasn't
We
like.
were probably like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, we
and
hadn't dated like 5 years.
He told me he wasn't going to stay with me if I went to college away, though.
I was cool. I was like, I don't want to do this long distance thing. So go, more so for her. I'm like, I don't want you to like go to college and be like, I got to call home every evening. Like, go enjoy your life. I didn't go away for college, and I didn't want to rob her of that opportunity. I didn't realize that was like an ultimatum to her. Or I would not have said that. Like I would have, this sounds bad now. I would have encouraged her to go and then done it after she was there. Because I wouldn't want to rob her of that experience either of going away. I mean, looking back, it worked out, but I still.
So you didn't go away. You stayed.
I stayed.
And how long after that moment were you engaged?
Probably like 5 months later, 6
Dude,
months.
this is the crazy part. All right.
We were engaged. I mean, after a few months, we basically knew we would get married one day. I think that's why it was easy for me to say, okay, I'll just stay here. Then if we're not going to make it, if I move.
I thought when we got engaged that we would be engaged for years. Okay. This is not a joke.
I was ready.
We got engaged, and she pulled out a calendar that only went out 1 year.
You bet.
And was like,
That's
we
how
need to
they
put a
make
date. I'm
them.
like, what? Do you have like another year calendar somewhere? Is the smaller one on the back that goes out 5 years?
That's how it goes.
Yeah. Woo, that escalated quickly.
Let
put a
me
ring on
ask you another question here. And then we're going to take a dip in the old bowl there. It's been refilled. You nervous about that?
I am. I wanted to read them before. No one would let me.
Okay, so this is a question for you both. I want you to be serious for a minute.
Like
Okay,
we're being
one at a
interviewed.
time, though, right?
Okay.
Danielle, take a sec. What would you like to see? You know Aaron better than anybody in the world. What would you like to see him accomplish in his career at Village Caregiving?
Oh boy.
That's a tough one.
Am I going to get the same question?
You are.
Okay, I'll think about it then.
I don't know. See, then I feel like I'm being biased when I say this. But so since Aaron started, obviously he ran Ashland's branch. And then he left, moved on to a different role a couple times since then. And now he's over the operations team. In that role, he basically could do anything. He knows from finance, business to compliance. From where he's at now, I don't know where else he could go. I hate to say this. It feels weird, but unless you left and it was like Aaron is the new Jeff, which everyone would say that. But I don't know where else he could go from where he's at now, because he already does that whole bowl we have of the 3 spots in our team. He does all of that already. He can get a compliance call and he can answer it, but like he said, he'll move it on to me, Andy, or Matt. When it's finance, he can answer that one as well. He'll help and then move it on to the team. But he knows everything about Village Caregiving. So I don't know where else he could go from that, or to
Maybe you should just do it now.
you retire and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
There are a dozen folks in the office that could do my job better, probably. So
I didn't say
Okay,
that. I'm just saying, if you decided to be like, I'm done, I want to just enjoy. I started this company, I'm done. That would be the only role left, I think, for him.
So to be there at the end of the day, really, I mean, that's one way to looking at what I hear there, is just to have a long career.
Yeah.
He talks about this a lot too, is to watch something grow that really kind of started from nothing, and just to be there at the end and look back at it and be like, my God, how that transformed.
Yeah.
I've heard you say that before.
Yeah.
Stop thinking so much. So now, same question. In Danielle's role, could be C&O right now, could be something else later on. What would you like? What would make you happy inside if you saw her accomplish that?
Well, I mean, so I think that I've seen us grow up together. Like, I mean, we're very young when we got together, and we have went through early years marriage. We went through, a lot of just life struggles, right? We've had people that we love pass away. We've had trauma and hurt in our lives from different things. So there's been this maturing process that's occurred in both of our lives. There's been these maturing situations occur where we've struggled professionally in roles, and we've switched roles, and we've left roles that felt stable and moved to other roles and encouraged each other to do those things. Over the last year or so, as this role for Danielle has grown and as the company has grown, we've talked, Keaton was on not long ago, and we talked about this, about constantly building ourselves and trying to become better and be prepared for what this level may require of us a year from now or 5 years from now as the company continues to transform. I've watched Danielle grow in that, independent of me. And a lot of things we did together, but in the roles that we serve in now, we don't necessarily get to do that together. And so it's a lot of just kind of personal endurance. So, it's not to compare it to when she, had both of our children or those sorts of things. But I've watched her do some very challenging things and intentionally grow herself. And I think she'll admit public speaking wasn't necessarily her forte prior to this role. It wasn't something she'd ever had to do. And so there were times where she would be at regional meetings or even at local meetings where, her voice would be shaky. She'd be very nervous. A day like today would have been a very challenging situation for her to come on a podcast and just take open-ended questions, right? But I've watched her collection of books grow. I've watched her research and education grow. while also watching her grow as a mother and as a wife and as a friend in our community, those sorts of things. So just watching that continued growth, is kind of an inspiring thing. And so where that leads, my hope for her is that she's just able to continue in the path that she's in and will be suited to continue to lead that department when it becomes, the Mayo Clinic or the Cleveland Clinic of Home Care,
right.
Whatever the next thing is for this organization. So.
That's very nice.
That was a better answer than mine. Can I have a redo?
Well, speaking of, you guys are both terrific at your job.
Well,
Great
you.
family. You mentioned the kiddos. Let's give a shout out to Pearson and Emma.
Hey.
Those are the best little kids you'll ever meet in your life, too. Hey, you can stop sweating. I'm out of serious questions.
We're out of serious
Wow.
questions.
Let's have some fun.
Oh, no.
Boy. All right. Well, Danielle, if you've watched this podcast at all, you understand what's about to happen next. I hear a lot of people saying, you said it as well, that you'd like to have a peek inside the fishbowl before we get started. What I can assure you is it would not make a difference. All right? These things aren't going to make any more sense the fifth time you read them than the first time you read them. So.
He's right.
I would assume you know this, but have you ever thought about, actually I could answer this for you. Would you
go
ever
ahead.
go into a dark room like Aaron Rodgers did? Do you know this story?
I do know that story.
Okay.
And no.
Just no.
I feel like, I get why he did it. I guess the whole mental clarity, figuring out who he is. I feel like I would go crazy though. And maybe that is who I am deep down. And that's why I'd go crazy. You never know.
You
But
might. Well, did you
I
hear
would
about
go
his?
crazy.
It was 4 days in the darkness. Aaron Rodgers did complete darkness in Oregon, I believe is where he went to. On day 3, he said he started to have hallucinations and got really tough. I could see that happening too.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary to think about doing, but I think I would really like the
would enjoy
challenge
it.
of it, kind of.
I could see you actually enjoying that just because you like challenging yourself.
I
I like
guess.
to challenge myself, but not in that aspect. I know I wouldn't do well in it. How about you?
Would you go in a dark room?
Oh, yeah. I would go into extreme isolation.
I'd like to put you in there for a good
Yeah,
long
it's
while.
understandable.
What did you think my answer was going to be?
I knew you would say no. Only because she can't drive to the end of the driveway without turning music on or something.
It's true. I
And
do
I'll
like
drive.
a podcast or music.
I would
on.
drive to Oregon in complete silence and it not bother me. So that doesn't, like, darkness or silence doesn't bother me at all. My fear would be that I would be like, oh,
I like this a lot.
There you are. What about you?
Pull another question.
Yeah,
Let me
so
ask you this
you're-
though, while he's pulling it out of there. What do you reckon your mind would think about for 4 days in the dark?
I don't know. That's what scares me, I think. I don't think it's the dark. It's the silence that would scare me.
Complete lack of stimulus.
Yes.
Stimuli.
What would come back up in my mind? I don't know.
I wonder what I would think about the whole time. God knows.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I would think about.
Probably, I'd have a lot of these things
This
ready.
next question.
Yep.
Oh,
Danielle,
gosh.
amphibious vehicles. Thoughts?
No.
No.
You mean no to amphibious vehicles or just no thoughts?
No
What are
thoughts.
you
I'm not
picturing
gonna
when
lie.
you
I'm
say
not
that?
100% sure what that means.
Well, I was driving down the road the other day and I saw a car that had a boat on the bottom of it.
Yeah. Like a duck boat.
Well, it was pretty clear this was an amphibious vehicle.
Right.
And I kind of started thinking I'd like for my truck to be able to drive out in the lake too. They should make more of them like
It
that.
would maybe be the only way your truck routinely got washed.
Didn't
Well,
he say his truck was the cleanest
It
it's
is.
ever been?
Yeah. This
Well,
is as good
You
as
said
no good time to
Aaron
talk. Wouldn't you like to just drive around on the water? You're just going down the highway and then peel off. We're just going to go
We're
out
gonna
here for a
go
while.
for a boat ride in our
Surely
truck.
they could make it happen.
You know, the kids would love that. Pearson could fish.
See, this
I
is
like
always
it.
comes back to the kids would love
It
it.
does.
well, the kids
Rachel
would
would be
love that.
out there. I'll be chasing
I
the
would be a
ducks in
nervous
the truck.
Shrek that we would be lost in sea forever. But
What would be
our
your
kids would enjoy that.
guess of how often you would use the amphibious vehicle? If your truck had,
It's just like going into 4-wheel drive. I
Yeah.
switch into water mode.
yeah, how often do you use 4-wheel drive? That's what I'm thinking. It would have the amphibious setting, but it would be
In the wintertime, I get in 4-wheel drive some. If I'm going out to our cabin and stuff, I got, a couple
Okay.
dozen times a year.
so you think every once in a while you would head out to
On a pretty day like today, like,
I
you know
sure
what?
would.
I'm going out on the boat.
I sure would. I
Push a
would.
button.
On the boat. Right there it is. That's my point. It'd be great.
Drive up to the river.
And it can't be that hard. In fact, I might just make it myself.
no?
There's been a lot of
You know that
inventions you can
commercial?
make yourself on the show.
Flex Seal.
Yeah.
Takes that
Yes.
tape. That guy, he says,
Doesn't.
I sawed this boat in half. That guy. I could just put that thing around the bottom of the truck, be right out there today.
You could
I
get
don't
a,
remember that commercial.
You could just get a boat.
Oh, yeah.
That's,
Seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
You would have to tow the boat,
No,
and
no,
that
it's
you could just
fine.
push the button and your car's a boat.
I'll just get you a boat. All right, don't hurt that truck. Please don't put that truck in the water.
Well, it would be cool
It would
if
be.
cars could just drive out in the water all the time.
That's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought much about it, so good for you.
Yep.
Or fly. I think that'd be cooler.
Well, Danielle, for the sake of time and energy, do you have any questions for us?
I'll let you turn it around on me and interview me one time.
Yeah,
How's
we-
that?
Interview
That's a
you
fair
now.
deal.
Well, that'd be a fun episode.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I feel like everyone learned a lot about us as a couple, but
Yeah.
that's about it.
Oh, we talked about some good stuff
Yeah,
there.
Yeah,
We talked
yeah.
about Village Caregiving a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Danielle, it flew by.
It's already been 30 minutes,
No,
or
we've
did you
been
all
in here
say
an
this
hour
is?
and a half.
That's a lie.
So, no, I appreciate you coming in. We're always thankful to have a true fan of the podcast on. And Jeff, this will sound less weird coming from you, so I'll let you finish this one.
Okay, I don't do this very often, but I guess I would just say thank you for being a great person, great friend, excellent at your job. Thanks for
her.
coming down and doing this. I know it's not the most fun, comfortable thing in the world, so we appreciate it. And yeah, you're terrific. So glad that we met and get the chance to work together.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yep.
It was nice to be here.
Well, cheers.
We get a
Cheers.